At 12:47 in the morning, my phone screamed into the silence of my bedroom. The nurse's voice came through in a whisper that made my blood freeze. She said my son Tyler's motorcycle accident wasn't what my daughter-in-law Amanda claimed it was. She told me to come to Mercy General Hospital immediately, before Amanda returned from getting coffee. As I drove through the empty streets of suburban Ohio, my hands shaking on the wheel, memories flooded back. Amanda's sudden interest in my property deed, Tyler's withdrawn behavior over the past 6 months, her overly sweet voice whenever she asked about my finances. I am Jonas, 67 years old, a retired carpenter who spent 42 years building homes with these two hands. I raised my son Tyler and daughter Grace in the house I built myself, the house where my late wife Mary spent her final days 3 years ago. Since Mary passed, I have lived alone in that 3-bedroom home, paid off and mine, filled with memories of a lifetime. Tyler married Amanda 2 years ago, and at first I was happy for him. A father wants his son to find love again after divorce. But something always felt wrong about Amanda, something I could never quite name. Now, racing through red lights at 1 in the morning, that unnamed feeling crystallized into pure terror. I pulled into the hospital parking lot at 1:15. The building loomed against the night sky, its windows glowing with harsh fluorescent light. My legs trembled as I walked through the automatic doors, the antiseptic smell hitting me immediately, reminding me of all the hours I spent here with Mary during her final illness. A nurse materialized from a side corridor, her face drawn and serious. She was maybe 50 years old, with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that had seen too much suffering. Her name tag read Beth Morrison. She did not waste time with pleasantries. She grabbed my elbow and pulled me into a small consultation room, closing the door firmly behind us. The click of that lock sounded like a gunshot in the quiet hallway. Beth spoke quickly, her voice low and urgent. She told me she had worked at Mercy General for 23 years. She had never, not once in all that time, violated patient confidentiality, but something about Tyler's case troubled her so deeply that she could not stay silent. She said her conscience would not let her sleep if she did not speak up. From under her scrubs, she pulled out a manila folder, worn at the edges and stuffed thick with papers. She handed it to me with shaking hands. Inside, I found medical records, police reports, and photographs that made my stomach turn. The documents told a story completely different from what Amanda had told me 3 days ago. Amanda claimed Tyler crashed his motorcycle on Route 77, that he lost control on a curve and slid into a guardrail. She said she got the call from police and rushed to the hospital, that she had been home doing laundry when it happened. But these papers told the truth. Tyler was not riding his motorcycle when the accident occurred. He was a passenger in Amanda's car. The motorcycle was found separately, staged at a different location 3 hours after Tyler was admitted to the intensive care unit, unconscious and broken. Beth showed me text messages she had overheard Amanda reading while Tyler lay sedated and unaware. Messages discussing something called the plan. Messages mentioning getting the old man's signature before he wakes up. The old man was me. I examined photographs of Tyler's injuries with growing horror. His face was swollen and bruised, his left arm in a cast, his ribs wrapped tight. Beth, who had seen hundreds of accident victims in her career, pointed out details I would have missed. She showed me how the injuries were inconsistent with a motorcycle crash, the bruising patterns, the locations of the fractures, the defensive wounds on Tyler's hands. She said these injuries suggested Tyler had been beaten badly and then placed in a vehicle that was deliberately crashed. She showed me brake mark analysis from the police report, technical details that made no sense to me but clearly troubled her. Someone had suppressed parts of this report, someone with access and influence. Then Beth showed me something that made my heart stop. She pulled out her phone, her hands trembling, and played a recording she had made 2 nights ago. Amanda's voice came through the small speaker, cold and businesslike, nothing like the sweet tone she used around me. She was talking to someone on the phone, discussing Phase 2, mentioning my house deed, talking about timing and signatures and covering tracks. Beth's eyes filled with tears as she told me the worst part. Amanda had been asking doctors repeatedly about Tyler's prognosis, and each time they said he was improving, Amanda seemed disappointed. Disappointed that her husband was healing. What kind of wife feels that way? Beth had also noticed Amanda pressuring medical staff to keep Tyler heavily sedated, claiming he needed rest, insisting they increase his pain medication beyond what was medically necessary. When one doctor questioned this, Amanda became hostile and threatened to report him for inadequate care. Then Beth showed me a document that made everything click into place. She had found it in Amanda's purse 2 days ago when Amanda asked her to retrieve some medication. It was a power of attorney document, dated just 4 days before Tyler's accident. It showed my signature, clear as day, transferring ownership of my home to Amanda Parker. I stared at that signature. It looked exactly like mine, the way I have signed my name for nearly 50 years. But I never signed that document. I never even saw it before this moment. Beth leaned close, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. She told me Amanda's real name was not Amanda Parker. She was actually Amanda Strickland. Beth's sister worked at a county clerk's office 2 states away, in Michigan, and she had recognized Amanda from a photo Beth showed her. In Michigan, Amanda had been married to an elderly widower named Douglas Brennan. Douglas signed over his property to Amanda 6 months into their marriage. 2 weeks later, Douglas had a massive stroke and ended up in a nursing home with severe brain damage. Amanda disappeared with his money and his house. Beth's sister remembered the case because Douglas' daughter had tried desperately to press charges, claiming Amanda drugged and manipulated her father. But there was never enough evidence. The police found nothing concrete. Amanda vanished before anyone could stop her. Now she was here, in Ohio, using a different last name, married to my son, with her eyes on my property. I sat in that small room, the folder heavy in my lap, my world crumbling around me. Tyler was not in a motorcycle accident. Tyler was attacked, probably by Amanda or someone working with her. My signature was forged. My home was being stolen, and my son lay unconscious down the hall, possibly drugged to keep him quiet while Amanda executed whatever plan she had concocted. Beth gripped my hand hard. She told me I needed to be careful. Amanda was dangerous, clearly willing to hurt people to get what she wanted. Beth said she was risking her job and possibly her safety by telling me all this, but she could not stand by and watch another family destroyed. I asked Beth why she was helping me. She looked at me with eyes full of pain and said her own father had been scammed by a woman like Amanda 15 years ago. He lost everything and died alone and broke. Beth was not going to let that happen to another family if she could stop it. We sat there for a long moment, the fluorescent lights humming above us, the hospital continuing its endless rhythm around us. Then I stood up, my decision made. I thanked Beth, told her I would protect her if this went bad, and promised I would not let Amanda win. Beth grabbed my arm as I reached for the door. She told me one more thing, the detail that would change everything. Amanda had called the hospital before the ambulance even arrived on the night of Tyler's accident. She called, asking specific questions about how long someone might remain unconscious after head trauma. She wanted to know about recovery times, about memory loss, about what patients might remember after waking. Amanda was planning this. She knew Tyler would be hurt because she was part of hurting him, and she wanted to know how long she had to work with before he could talk. I did not go to Tyler's room. Not yet. I needed to know more, to understand what I was facing. I went to the hospital cafeteria, found a corner table away from the few overnight workers scattered around, and pulled out my phone. It was 2:30 in the morning, but sleep was impossible. I started searching for Amanda Strickland online, my fingers clumsy on the small screen, my reading glasses perched on my nose. What I found in the next hour made me physically sick. Public records, websites, the kind that aggregate information from courthouses and newspapers and government databases, told a story of systematic predation spanning 7 years in 4 states. Amanda had been married 4 times before Tyler, 4 times to older men. Every husband had adult children, paid-off homes, and modest but comfortable savings. The first husband, Gerald Thompson in Tennessee, died in a fall down his basement stairs 18 months after their wedding. The medical examiner ruled it accidental. Gerald's son tried to contest the will that left everything to Amanda, but the court sided with her. She sold Gerald's house and disappeared. The second husband, Martin Cross in Kentucky, drowned while fishing alone at a lake. He and Amanda had been married 11 months, again ruled accidental. Martin's daughter told reporters she believed Amanda had something to do with it, but there was no evidence. Amanda inherited everything and moved on. The third husband, Douglas Brennan in Michigan, the one Beth's sister knew about, suffered his stroke and ended up in a care facility, unable to speak or walk or remember his own children. Amanda took his money and property and vanished before anyone could investigate. The fourth husband, Raymond Fletcher in Indiana, died in a house fire 13 months after marrying Amanda. The fire marshal determined faulty wiring caused the blaze. Raymond's children fought the insurance payout, claiming Amanda had tampered with the electrical system, but they could not prove it. Amanda collected $200,000 and disappeared again. Now Tyler, husband number 5, and Tyler was not dead. Not yet. But someone had certainly tried. I sat there staring at my phone, at the photographs of these men. All of them older, all of them widowed or divorced, all of them lonely and vulnerable. Amanda found them, charmed them, married them, and destroyed them. It was her profession, her method of survival. She was a predator, pure and simple. I found a phone number for Patricia Brennan, Douglas' daughter, through a Facebook page dedicated to raising awareness about elder fraud. Despite the early hour, I called. She answered on the third ring, her voice thick with sleep and confusion. I told her my name, told her I was calling about Amanda Strickland, and the sleep vanished from her voice instantly. Patricia started crying before I finished my first sentence. She said she had been waiting years for this call, hoping someone would finally catch Amanda, praying another family would not have to suffer what hers did. She told me her father had been healthy, active, sharp as ever. He volunteered at the library, played golf twice a week, traveled to visit his grandchildren. Then he met Amanda at a grief support group just 8 months after Patricia's mother passed away. Amanda was there, trolling for victims, pretending to mourn a husband who probably never existed. Within weeks, Douglas was smitten. Within months, they were married. Patricia tried to warn him, tried to point out how quickly things were moving. But Douglas was lonely, and Amanda was very, very good at what she did. Then Douglas started changing. He became confused, lethargic, paranoid. He stopped returning Patricia's calls. When she visited, Amanda was always there, hovering, controlling the conversation, rushing Patricia out the door. Douglas complained of headaches, dizziness, memory problems. Doctors ran tests, but found nothing conclusive. Patricia suspected Amanda was drugging him. She tried to get her father alone to talk, but Amanda never left his side. Then came the stroke, sudden and catastrophic. By the time Patricia got to the hospital, Amanda had already moved Douglas into a long-term care facility and was selling his house. Patricia spent everything she had on lawyers, but Amanda had covered her tracks perfectly. Every document was properly notarized, every signature verified by handwriting experts. Amanda must have paid off. The police found no evidence of foul play. Douglas could not communicate well enough to testify about what happened. Amanda walked away with $43,000 in cash and a house worth another $180,000. Patricia warned me that Amanda was meticulous, patient, and utterly ruthless. She said Amanda would have backup plans for her backup plans. She told me to be very, very careful because people who got in Amanda's way had a habit of ending up dead. I thanked Patricia, promised to keep her updated, and hung up. My coffee had gone cold, and the cafeteria was starting to fill with early morning staff. I felt 100 years old and utterly alone. But I was not alone. I had information now. I had proof. I had allies. I went back upstairs to Tyler's room. It was 4 a.m. Amanda was not there, probably sleeping in a hotel nearby or maybe at my house. Going through my papers, looking for more things to steal, I stood beside my son's bed and looked at him. Tubes and wires connected him to machines that beeped and hummed. His face was so swollen I barely recognized him. His beautiful, kind face, the face I had watched grow from baby to boy to man, now purple and broken. I touched his hand gently, careful not to disturb the IV line. His skin was warm, his pulse steady. He was alive. That was what mattered. A night doctor came in to check vitals, a young woman who looked exhausted. I asked her about Tyler's injuries, and she confirmed what Beth had told me. The injury pattern was unusual for a motorcycle accident. She had noted it in her report. When I asked what happened to that report, she said the attending physician told her it was being handled by the family and not to worry about it. The attending physician, I made a mental note to find out who that was and whether Amanda had gotten to him too. I searched Tyler's belongings in the small closet beside his bed. His clothes were there, cut and bloodied from the emergency room. His wallet, his keys, and his phone, cracked but present, shoved into a plastic bag with his other personal effects. Amanda must have overlooked it in the chaos. Or maybe she thought it was too damaged to work. I pulled it out, my hands shaking. The screen was shattered, a spiderweb of cracks across the glass. But when I pressed the power button, nothing happened. Dead battery. I found a charger in Tyler's backpack, another item Amanda apparently missed. I plugged the phone into the wall outlet and waited, pacing the small room, watching Tyler breathe, listening to the machines sing their steady songs. After 10 minutes that felt like hours, the phone powered on. I entered Tyler's passcode, the same one he had used for years, Mary's birthday backwards. The phone unlocked. I went straight to his text messages. The most recent conversation was with his friend Mark, dated the afternoon of the accident. My heart stopped as I read Tyler's words. I found proof. Amanda's been forging Dad's signature. I confronted her. She's furious. Meeting her at the old warehouse on Polk Street to talk this out. If something happens to me, check her background. Dad needs to know the truth. Mark had responded immediately. Don't go alone. This sounds dangerous. I'm coming with you, Tyler wrote back. No, stay away. I need to handle this myself. If I don't text you by 8 tonight, call the police and tell them everything. Mark's next message came at 8:30. Tyler, where are you? I'm calling the cops. Then nothing, because Tyler was already in the hospital by then, unconscious, unable to tell anyone what Amanda had done. I scrolled through more messages, finding conversations where Tyler expressed worry about Amanda's behavior, about her questions regarding my finances, about documents he found in her car. He had been investigating her, protecting me, and it got him nearly killed. Then I found the voice memos. Tyler had recorded several in the days before the accident. I clicked on the most recent one, dated the same day as his last text to Mark. Tyler's voice filled the small room, strong and clear and alive. He said he had hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago after finding forged bank statements in Amanda's things. The investigator uncovered Amanda's real identity and her history of marrying and destroying older men. Tyler had confronted Amanda that morning, told her he knew everything, threatened to go to the police. Amanda had laughed at him. She told him nobody would believe him, that she had been careful, that his father was already signing documents and did not even know it. She said Tyler could either help her and get a cut of the money, or he could get out of her way permanently. Tyler chose to fight. He arranged to meet Amanda at the warehouse, planning to record her confession and take it straight to the police. He said on the recording that he was scared but determined. He would not let Amanda hurt his father. He would not let her get away with this. The recording ended with Tyler saying he was heading to the meeting, that he loved his family, and that if anything happened, we should know he fought for us. I stood there in that hospital room, my son's voice echoing in my ears, tears streaming down my face. Tyler tried to save me and nearly died for it. Now it was my turn to save him. At 5:45 in the morning, I heard her voice in the hallway, that sickeningly sweet tone, thanking nurses, asking about Tyler's condition, playing the role of devoted wife. I quickly pocketed Tyler's phone and composed myself. When Amanda walked into the room, I was sitting beside the bed, holding Tyler's hand, looking every bit the worried, confused old father. Amanda's performance was flawless. She rushed to me, throwing her arms around my shoulders, her body shaking with what seemed like genuine sobs. She smelled like expensive perfume and something else, something chemical I could not identify. She pulled back, tears streaming down her carefully made-up face, and launched into her story again. Tyler had been riding his motorcycle on Route 77, a road he took every week to visit a friend. He must have hit a patch of gravel on a curve. The bike went down, and Tyler slid 50 feet into a guardrail. A passing driver called 911. Amanda got the call from the hospital, rushed over, had been here ever since. I watched her mouth move, watched the tears fall, watched her hands flutter dramatically. Every word was a lie, delivered with the skill of someone who had told this story or ones like it many times before. She sat beside me, taking my other hand, her grip tight and warm. She told me how scared she had been, how she could not bear to lose Tyler, how grateful she was that I was here to support them both. Then, as if it just occurred to her, she mentioned how she and Tyler had been talking recently about my living situation. She said the words casually, gently, as if she cared about my well-being. She told me Tyler was worried about me being alone in that big house, worried about what would happen if I fell or got sick with nobody around to help. I played along, letting confusion show on my face, asking what she meant. Amanda patted my hand and explained that Tyler wanted to make sure I was taken care of. She said they had discussed maybe selling my house, using the money to move me into a nice assisted living facility where I would have people around, activities, medical care on site. The words made my blood boil, but I kept my face neutral, kept my voice shaky and uncertain. I said I had not thought about leaving my home, that Mary and I built that house together, that all my memories were there. Amanda's expression turned sympathetic, but her eyes remained cold and calculating. She said she understood how hard it was to let go, but I needed to think practically. What if I fell and nobody found me for days? What if I forgot to take my medication? What if the house became too much to maintain? She was painting a picture of me as helpless, as incompetent, as someone who needed others to make decisions for him. It was manipulation of the cruelest kind, designed to make me doubt myself, to make me feel weak and dependent. Then she reached into her large purse and pulled out a folder of papers. My heart raced, but I kept my breathing steady. She spread the documents across the table beside Tyler's bed, explaining each one in that sweet, patient voice. Power of attorney forms, advance directives, a quitclaim deed, all with spaces for my signature. Amanda explained that Tyler had asked her to prepare these documents just in case anything happened. She said it was responsible planning, that Tyler loved me and wanted to protect me. She said if I signed these now, while we were all here together, Tyler would wake up knowing his father was taken care of and his mind could be at rest. I looked at the papers with pretend confusion, squinting at the small print, asking questions slowly as if I could barely understand. Amanda's patience seemed genuine, but I caught flickers of frustration in her eyes, quick as lightning. She began rushing me, saying we should handle this quickly before Tyler woke up and worried about me. She said there was a notary working in the hospital, someone who could witness my signature and make everything official. She emphasized how simple it would be, how quickly it would be done, how much better everyone would feel. I told her I needed to use the restroom. My prostate, I said, embarrassed. Old man problems. Amanda's mask slipped for just a second, annoyance flashing across her face, but she quickly smiled and told me to take my time. In the hallway, I found a quiet corner and called Beth. She answered immediately, her voice tense. I told her what was happening. She confirmed that there was no notary named Diane working at the hospital. She also checked the visitor logs for me. Amanda had been absent from the hospital for 6 hours on the night of Tyler's accident, despite her claims that she never left his side. 6 hours, plenty of time to stage a motorcycle crash, to clean up evidence, to get her story straight. Beth also told me something that made my stomach drop. She had checked Tyler's medication records. Someone had been adjusting his doses, adding sedatives that were not prescribed, keeping him under when he should have been waking up. The orders came through the system, but when Beth traced them back, they did not match the attending physician's usual patterns. Someone was falsifying medical records. I thanked Beth and went back to Tyler's room. Amanda was on her phone, texting rapidly, her face tight with concentration. When she saw me, the sweet mask returned instantly. I told her I needed time to think about the documents, that I wanted to wait until Tyler woke up to discuss everything with him. I said I was not comfortable signing anything without my son's input. Amanda's jaw clenched. It was just a small movement, his hand twitching, a soft sound escaping his throat, but it was enough. Amanda went pale. She stood abruptly, fumbling for her phone. A doctor rushed in, alerted by the monitors, and began assessing Tyler's condition. Amanda tried to send me away again, saying I looked exhausted, that I should go home, that she would handle everything. But I refused. I stood my ground, telling her firmly that I was staying with my son. The doctor explained that Tyler was beginning to regain consciousness, that this was a positive sign, that he would likely be able to communicate within 24 to 48 hours, as the sedatives cleared his system. Amanda's hands shook as she texted someone. I watched her reflection in the window, saw the message she was typing. The words made my blood run cold. Hez, waking up too soon. Need to accelerate plan. The property was worth maybe $250,000. Not a fortune, but enough to kill for. Apparently, I parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, looking at the house where I raised my children, where Mary and I celebrated anniversaries and birthdays and graduations, where we cried together when her cancer diagnosis came through, where she took her last breath in our bedroom with her family around her. Amanda wanted to take this from me. She wanted to erase my history, my memories, my home. She wanted to turn my life into cash and move on to her next victim, not while I still had breath in my body. I went inside and immediately called Patricia Brennan back. She answered on the first ring, as if she had been waiting by her phone. I asked her about the detective she had mentioned, the one who investigated her father's case in Michigan. Patricia gave me Detective Frank Cordero's direct number. She said he had believed her about Amanda, but could never gather enough evidence to make charges stick. She said he would be thrilled to help if I had something concrete. I called Detective Cordero. He picked up after 3 rings, his voice gruff and tired. When I told him I was calling about Amanda Strickland, there was a long pause, then a string of curses that would have made Mary blush. Detective Cordero said he had been trying to track Amanda for 2 years. Every time he got close, she disappeared into a new state, a new identity, a new victim. He said she was one of the most successful con artists he had ever encountered, and the most dangerous, because she was willing to kill. I told him everything: Beth's information, Tyler's condition, the forged documents, Amanda's history, her text message about accelerating her plan. Cordero listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he let out a long breath. He told me Amanda worked with a network of accomplices. The fake notary I had heard about, Diane, was actually the sister of a man named Richard Sutton. Richard was Amanda's enforcer, the one who did the physical work when charm and manipulation were not enough. He was the one who had probably beaten Tyler and staged the motorcycle crash. Cordero had been trying to connect Richard to Amanda's previous victims' deaths, but could never find solid proof. Cordero also mentioned a pharmacy technician Amanda had used before, someone who could alter medications, create false records, make deaths look natural. If Amanda was planning to kill Tyler in the hospital, she would need someone on the inside. I told Cordero about the medication irregularities Beth had found. He said that was our smoking gun, the evidence we needed to move on Amanda now. But Cordero warned me that Amanda was extremely dangerous when cornered. He said if she thought I was onto her, she would not hesitate to kill me and make it look accidental. He advised me to set a trap, to get her on record confessing, to gather evidence that could not be disputed in court. We made a plan. I would bait Amanda into coming to my house, would pretend to be ready to sign her documents, would get her talking. Cordero would work on getting law enforcement in Ohio involved, but it would take time. In the meantime, I needed to gather my own evidence. After hanging up with Cordero, I called my daughter Grace in Colorado. She answered cheerfully, asking about Tyler, not yet knowing how serious things were. I had not wanted to worry her, had told her Tyler was in an accident but was stable. Now I told her everything. Grace's voice went from cheerful to horrified to furious in the span of 5 minutes. She said she had always hated Amanda, had never trusted her, had tried to tell Tyler something was wrong. Tyler had dismissed her concerns, saying Grace was being overprotective and jealous. Grace said she would be on the next flight to Ohio. I told her to come to my house, not the hospital, and to be careful because Amanda might be watching for people who could interfere with her plans. Next, I called Bernard Hayes, the lawyer who had handled Mary's estate 3 years ago. Bernard was semi-retired now, but still took cases for old clients. When I explained the situation, He said he would come to my house immediately. While I waited, I set up my old video camera, the one I used to record Tyler's baseball games and Grace's dance recitals. I positioned it on a shelf in my living room, hidden behind some books, aimed directly at my dining table. I tested it twice to make sure it had a clear view and good audio. I also set my phone on the kitchen counter, tucked behind a fruit bowl, recording audio continuously. I wanted multiple sources of evidence in case Amanda found one. At 10:30, Amanda called. Her voice was strained, trying to hide frustration beneath concern. She told me Tyler was asking for me, that he was more alert and wanted to see his father. I could hear the lie in her words, heard the calculation behind the sweetness. She suggested I come to the hospital right away and maybe we could finally take care of those important papers while Tyler rested, knowing his father was protected. She said she had Diane the notary standing by, ready to make everything official. I told Amanda I would come at noon, but first I needed to stop by my bank to gather some documents, some information about my accounts and assets. I made my voice sound eager, cooperative, like I had decided to trust her. Amanda's relief was audible. She said that was wonderful, that she would have everything ready, that we could all move forward together as a family. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and tried to calm my racing heart. I was 67 years old, a widower, a retired carpenter with arthritis in my hands and a bad knee from a fall 2 years ago. I was going up against a practiced killer and her network of accomplices, but I was also a father, and a father protects his children, no matter the cost. Bernard Hayes arrived at 11:15, carrying a briefcase and wearing his usual suit despite the early hour. He was 72, with white hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. We had known each other for 30 years, had worked together on neighborhood projects, had shared drinks after Mary's funeral. Bernard reviewed all the documents I had collected. He confirmed that the signatures were forgeries, sophisticated ones, but forgeries nonetheless. The notary seal was fake. The dates did not align with the stories Amanda told. This was felony fraud, attempted theft, possibly attempted murder. Bernard said we needed to catch Amanda in the act for any charges to stick. Her previous victims' families had all failed because Amanda covered her tracks too well. But if we could get her confessing on tape, admitting to her plans, we might finally stop her. We discussed strategies, planned questions I should ask, worked out signals in case things went wrong. Bernard would hide in my back bedroom with the door cracked, listening through a baby monitor I still had from when Tyler's kids used to visit before his divorce. At 11:45, as we were finalizing our plan, my doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone. Grace was not due for hours. Bernard looked at me with concern. I checked the window. Amanda stood on my front porch, and beside her was a large man with scarred knuckles and dead eyes. Richard Sutton, I assumed. The enforcer, the one who had beaten my son. They were 90 minutes early, and Amanda's face held no trace of sweetness, only cold determination. My trap had become something else entirely. Amanda had decided to force the issue right now, at my home, with muscle to back her up. Bernard grabbed my arm, whispering urgently that we should call the police immediately. But I shook my head. The video camera was recording. The phone was recording. If we called the police now, Amanda would run, and we might never get another chance. I opened the door. Amanda walked into my home without waiting for an invitation. Richard followed, closing the door behind them with a soft click that sounded final. He positioned himself in front of the door, blocking any exit. His hands hung loose at his sides, relaxed but ready. Amanda's transformation was complete. Gone was the sweet daughter-in-law, the concerned wife, the helpful woman who just wanted what was best for everyone. In her place stood someone cold, calculating, and utterly devoid of compassion. She sat at my dining table without being asked, spreading her documents across the wooden surface Mary and I had eaten 1,000 meals at. Richard remained by the door, watching me with the patience of a predator. Amanda spoke without preamble, her voice flat and businesslike. She told me we were going to handle this quickly and simply. I was going to sign over my house, my bank accounts, and my life insurance policy. She had all the paperwork ready. It would take 10 minutes, and then they would leave. I asked her what made her think I would do that. My voice shook, but not entirely from fear. Anger was burning through my chest, hot and righteous. Amanda smiled, but there was no warmth in it. She said I would sign because the alternative was much worse. She gestured to Richard, who cracked his knuckles with a sound like small branches breaking. She explained that accidents happen to old men all the time. Falls downstairs, heart attacks, house fires. She had experience with all of those. I stood my ground, my hands clenched at my sides. I told her I knew who she really was. I knew about Douglas Brennan, about Gerald Thompson, about all the others. I knew she attacked Tyler when he discovered the truth. Amanda's smile widened. She looked almost impressed. She said she had wondered if I would figure it out, but it did not matter now. I had no power here, no options. Richard could easily force my hand to sign, could forge my signature if necessary, could make my death look natural. Then Amanda did something I had not expected. She started talking. Maybe it was arrogance. Maybe she thought I was no threat. Maybe she wanted someone to appreciate her cleverness before she killed me. Whatever the reason, she confessed to everything. She told me about her method, about how she selected victims, older men, widowed or divorced, lonely and desperate for companionship, men with adult children who did not visit often, with homes paid off and savings accounts they had spent lifetimes building. Easy marks, she called them. She explained how she found them: grief support groups, church singles events, online dating sites for seniors. She created profiles, told sob stories about her own fictional dead husband, played the role of a woman looking for a second chance at love. Once she hooked them, the rest was simple. She rushed the relationship, pushed for marriage before family could interfere or run background checks. She was patient when she needed to be, waiting months sometimes before making her move. But eventually, they all signed over their assets, trusting the woman they thought loved them. Amanda described her previous victims with chilling detachment. Gerald's fall down the stairs was not an accident. She pushed him during an argument about money. Martin did not drown while fishing. She drugged him and held his head underwater until he stopped struggling. Raymond's house fire was not faulty wiring. She cut the gas line and tossed a cigarette into the garage while he slept. Douglas Brennan was her masterpiece, she said with actual pride in her voice. No violence, no obvious crime, just careful doses of medications that mimicked stroke symptoms over 6 months. By the time Douglas was incapacitated, Amanda had every document signed, every account transferred, every legal challenge blocked. Then she told me about Tyler. Her voice turned angry when she spoke about my son. She said Tyler was supposed to be her entry to me, the way to gain my trust. But Tyler was too smart, too protective, too unwilling to be manipulated. He started asking questions, hired an investigator, found out her real identity. Amanda said she gave Tyler a choice: help her get my house and take a cut of the money, or get out of her way. Tyler chose to fight. Stupid, Amanda called it. Noble but stupid. She described the warehouse meeting with the satisfaction of someone recounting a successful business deal. Richard was there, hidden, in case Tyler did not cooperate. When Tyler threatened to go to the police, Richard beat him unconscious. They staged the motorcycle crash to cover their tracks, moved Tyler's bike to a different location, called the hospital asking about head injuries to establish a timeline. Amanda had expected Tyler to die from his injuries or to remain unconscious long enough for her to complete her plan with me. But Tyler was tougher than anticipated, and his recovery was complicating everything. She also revealed what I had feared. She had an accomplice in the hospital pharmacy, a technician named Kyle who she paid to adjust Tyler's medications. Kyle was keeping Tyler sedated, preventing him from waking and talking, slowly poisoning him with substances that would eventually cause organ failure that would look natural. Amanda planned to kill Tyler in the hospital while simultaneously getting my signature on her forged documents. Then I would have my own accident, probably a heart attack induced by drugs she would slip into my food or coffee. She would inherit everything from Tyler as his wife, and I would have already signed over my assets to her. 2 estates, 1 plan, executed perfectly. Except I figured it out too soon. Amanda leaned forward, her eyes hard. She said she had worked too hard on this plan, invested too much time, and she was not leaving empty-handed. I would sign, one way or another. Richard would make sure of it. Richard stepped forward, his large frame casting a shadow over me. He grabbed my wrist, his grip like iron, and forced my hand toward the table where a pen lay waiting. That was when I said the words I had been waiting to deliver. I looked Amanda straight in the eyes and told her she was right that I was old. But I was not alone, and I was not stupid. Bernard Hayes emerged from the back bedroom, his phone held high, recording video. Grace burst through the front door, which I had left unlocked as planned, with Detective Frank Cordero and 2 local police officers who had been waiting outside after Cordero made emergency calls from his car on the way here. Amanda's face transformed from confident to panicked in an instant. She lunged for the documents, trying to grab them, destroy them, eliminate evidence. But the officers moved faster, securing the papers and pulling Amanda away from the table. Richard tried to fight. He swung at one officer, his fist connecting with a jaw with a sickening crack, but the second officer tackled him, and within seconds Richard was on the ground, handcuffed, still struggling and cursing. Amanda screamed that I had no proof, that this was entrapment, that she was coerced. She claimed she never said any of those things, that I was a confused old man making up stories. Detective Cordero stepped forward, his face calm and satisfied. He told Amanda he had heard every word of her confession through Bernard's phone, which had been on a live call with Cordero's recorder the entire time. He also had the video from my camera, still running and capturing everything. And he had audio from my phone in the kitchen. 3 separate recordings, multiple witnesses, confession to multiple murders and attempted murders. Cordero formally arrested Amanda and Richard on charges of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, forgery, and a list of other felonies that took 2 minutes to read. He informed them they would be extradited to face additional charges in Michigan, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana. As the officers led Amanda out in handcuffs, she glared at me with pure hatred. She spat that I had ruined everything, that she had worked too hard, that I would pay for this. I simply told her she should have known better than to underestimate a father protecting his son. Richard was dragged out next, still fighting, threatening everyone. The officers handled him roughly, unconcerned with his comfort. After they were gone, I collapsed into a chair, my whole body shaking. Grace wrapped her arms around me, crying and saying over and over that I was safe, that it was over, that she was so proud of me. Bernard patted my shoulder with a trembling hand. He said in all his years as a lawyer, he had never seen anything quite like that. He said I was either very brave or very crazy, and he was not sure which. Detective Cordero stayed for another hour, taking statements, securing evidence, coordinating with local law enforcement. He told me that the hospital was being locked down, that Kyle, the pharmacy technician, was being arrested, that Tyler's medications were being secured and reviewed. Most importantly, Tyler was safe. A guard was posted at his door. No one would hurt him now. Cordero also revealed something that made my blood freeze. When they searched Amanda's purse, they found a small vial of clear liquid. A field test identified it as concentrated potassium chloride, enough to cause instant cardiac arrest if injected. Amanda had planned to kill me right there in my home, to inject me with that poison and make it look like a heart attack. She would have forced my signature first, probably with Richard breaking my fingers if necessary, and then eliminated me before I could cause more problems. If I had been alone when she arrived, I would be dead. If I had waited for her at the hospital as she planned, she might have succeeded in killing Tyler first. We had stopped her with less than an hour to spare. The next 3 weeks brought revelations that turned my stomach and broke my heart. Detective Cordero coordinated with law enforcement across 6 states. The investigation expanded rapidly, uncovering a network of accomplices and victims more extensive than anyone had imagined. Richard Sutton, facing life imprisonment without parole, agreed to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. He provided detailed testimony about 15 different schemes Amanda had orchestrated over 9 years. Some victims had survived, like Douglas Brennan. Most had not. Richard described himself as Amanda's fixer. He staged accidents, intimidated witnesses, forged documents, and eliminated problems. He was with Amanda in Tennessee when she pushed Gerald Thompson down the stairs. He held Martin Cross underwater in Kentucky. He helped set the fire that killed Raymond Fletcher in Indiana. And he beat my son Tyler almost to death in Ohio. Richard's testimony opened cases across multiple states. Prosecutors began building murder charges, fraud cases, conspiracy prosecutions. Amanda was looking at life sentences that would stack into centuries. The fake notary, Diane Marquez, was Richard's sister. She had been creating fraudulent documents for Amanda since the beginning. Police recovered files from Diana's apartment containing forged deeds, wills, powers of attorney, and death certificates from all of Amanda's victims. She kept everything, apparently as insurance against Amanda ever turning on her. Now those files became evidence that would help convict them all. Diane agreed to testify in exchange for a lighter sentence, providing details about how Amanda planned each operation, how she selected targets, how she covered her tracks. The hospital pharmacy technician, Kyle Morrison, confessed within hours of his arrest. He explained that Amanda had approached him 6 months ago, offering $5,000 to tamper with medications when she needed it. Kyle was drowning in student loan debt from pharmacy school and saw it as easy money. He admitted to adjusting Tyler's sedatives, adding compounds that delayed healing, creating false records to hide what he was doing. He said Amanda called him the night after Tyler's accident with specific instructions. Keep Tyler unconscious as long as possible. Make his recovery slow and complicated. If he wakes up too alert, increase the sedation. Kyle also revealed that Amanda had asked him to prepare a fatal dose, something that would cause organ failure within 72 hours, but looked like a complication from Tyler's injuries. Kyle had prepared it but never administered it because Beth, the nurse, started asking too many questions and watching Tyler's medications too closely. Kyle faced multiple felony charges and permanent loss of his pharmacy license. He cried during his confession, saying he never thought he was helping someone commit murder, that he convinced himself he was just adjusting medications, not really hurting anyone. But he was hurting someone. He was helping Amanda kill my son. The most important development was Tyler himself. With the poisons cleared from his system and proper medical care restored, his recovery accelerated dramatically. Within 10 days of Amanda's arrest, Tyler was sitting up, talking clearly, eating solid food. His cognitive functions returned fully, his memories intact. The doctors called it remarkable. I called it a miracle, even though I knew it was not a miracle but simply Tyler's strong body fighting back once the attack stopped. Tyler was able to give his testimony to police from his hospital bed. He described the warehouse confrontation in detail, identifying Richard Sutton as his attacker. He recalled Amanda's cold confession, her offer to let him join her scheme, her casual discussion of killing me. Tyler also told police about evidence he had gathered before the attack. He had rented a storage unit under his friend Mark's name, filling it with documents he had stolen from Amanda's things, bank records showing transfers from her previous victims, copies of IDs under different names, photographs of other potential targets Amanda had been researching, handwritten notes detailing her methods. Police retrieved everything from the storage unit. It was a treasure trove of evidence, enough to connect Amanda to crimes spanning nearly a decade. Grace stayed in Ohio, taking family leave from her job in Colorado to be with Tyler and me. She moved into her old bedroom, and for the first time in years, my house felt like a home again. We spent long hours talking, rebuilding bonds that had frayed over time and distance. Grace apologized repeatedly for not being more forceful about her concerns regarding Amanda. She said she had disliked Amanda from their first meeting, sensing something false beneath the surface. But Tyler had dismissed her warnings as jealousy or overprotection. Tyler apologized for bringing Amanda into our lives, for not seeing through her act sooner, for putting me in danger. He said he should have trusted Grace's instincts, should have run a background check before marrying Amanda, should have protected his family better. I told both my children that the only person responsible for Amanda's crimes was Amanda herself. We were victims, not collaborators, and we survived because we loved each other and fought for each other. Patricia Brennan traveled from Michigan to meet me in person. We embraced like old friends, bonded by our shared trauma and victory. She brought her father Douglas with her, wheeling him into the hospital room where Tyler was recovering. Douglas' condition had improved slightly with proper care and therapy. though he would never fully recover from what Amanda did to him. He could speak in short sentences, could recognize people, could express emotions. When Patricia told him that Amanda had been caught, that she would never hurt anyone again, Douglas cried with relief. Patricia and I began working together on a larger project. We connected with families of Amanda's other victims, building a support network, sharing resources. We contacted victims' advocacy groups, spoke with legislators about closing legal loopholes that predators like Amanda exploited. I also reconnected with Beth Morrison, the nurse who started everything by trusting her conscience and taking a terrible risk. Beth had been terrified she would lose her job or face legal consequences for violating patient confidentiality. Instead, the hospital administration commended her for preventing multiple murders. Beth explained to me over coffee one afternoon why she had helped. She said her own father had been scammed by a woman like Amanda 15 years ago. A woman who claimed to love him, who married him, who took everything he owned and disappeared. Beth's father died alone and broke, his children too far away to protect him, his trust so shattered that he would not let anyone help him. Beth said she saw her father in me, saw another family about to be destroyed, and could not stay silent. She knew she might face consequences, but she had to try. Her conscience demanded it. I told Beth she saved 2 lives at minimum, probably more since Amanda would have continued her pattern. Beth cried and said she was glad that she could sleep again knowing she had done the right thing. The local news covered the story extensively. Reporters camped outside the courthouse, the hospital, even my house for a few days. I gave one interview, hoping to warn other elderly people about predators like Amanda. I explained the warning signs. Someone pushing too quickly for marriage or financial access. Someone isolating you from family and friends. Someone asking detailed questions about your assets and health. Someone who seems too good to be true, because they probably are. I described how Amanda operated, how she selected victims, how she manipulated and controlled. I urged people to trust their instincts, to listen to family members who expressed concerns, to verify everything before signing any documents. The interview went viral, reaching millions of people across the country. I received hundreds of messages from viewers thanking me, sharing their own stories of narrowly avoiding similar predators, asking advice about suspicious situations. Several people reported their own cases to authorities after seeing my interview. At least 3 active con artists were arrested when their would-be victims recognized patterns I described and contacted police. One case particularly moved me. A 72-year-old widower named Harold Chapman in Pennsylvania reached out to Detective Cordero after seeing my interview. Harold had been communicating online with Amanda for 4 months, building what he thought was a genuine connection. They had not met in person yet, but Amanda was planning to visit him within 2 weeks. Harold did not want to believe Amanda could be dangerous. He insisted she was kind, caring, genuinely interested in him. But when Cordero showed Harold the evidence, the photographs, the testimony, Harold broke down completely. He realized Amanda had been grooming him, learning about his waterfront property worth over $600,000, asking about his health and whether he had updated his will recently. She used the same phrases with Harold that she had used with Douglas Brennan and probably with me. The same techniques, the same timeline, the same endgame. Harold had been 2 weeks away from meeting Amanda in person, from falling completely under her spell, from potentially becoming victim number 6. My interview and Harold's quick action saved his life. Harold later attended Amanda's trial, sitting beside me in the courtroom. He testified about her manipulation tactics, providing evidence of their online communications. His testimony helped prosecutors demonstrate Amanda's ongoing predatory behavior right up until her arrest. The investigation also uncovered something that chilled everyone involved. Amanda had been researching new targets even while married to Tyler, even while planning to kill both Tyler and me. She had profiles on multiple dating sites, was communicating with at least 6 different older men across 4 states. She never stopped hunting. Prosecutors used this evidence to argue that Amanda was an ongoing threat who would never stop, never feel remorse, never change. They said she was a predator in the truest sense, someone who saw other human beings as resources to be exploited and discarded. 6 months after that terrible midnight phone call from Beth, Amanda Strickland stood trial in Ohio. The courtroom was packed beyond capacity, with overflow crowds watching on monitors in adjacent rooms. Victims' families filled the gallery. Survivors sat together, holding hands, supporting each other. Media outlets from across the country covered every moment. I sat in the front row with Tyler on one side and Grace on the other. Tyler had recovered fully, physically at least. The emotional scars would take longer to heal. But he was strong, working with a therapist, rebuilding his life. Grace had decided to relocate permanently to Ohio, taking a remote position so she could stay close to family. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. Recordings of Amanda's confession in my home, video footage from multiple angles, testimony from Richard Sutton, Diane Marquez, Kyle Morrison, medical records, financial documents, police reports. The paper trail of Amanda's crimes stretched back nearly a decade and filled dozens of boxes. Amanda showed no remorse throughout the trial. She sat at the defense table with perfect posture, her expression cold and calculating. Her lawyers tried various defenses, claiming she was coerced by Richard, that the recordings were edited, that she was entrapped. Nothing stuck. The evidence was too solid, too comprehensive, too damning. One of the most powerful moments came when Douglas Brennan took the stand. Patricia wheeled her father to the witness box. Douglas' speech was slow and halting, his words sometimes slurred, but his meaning was clear. He described in painful detail how Amanda destroyed his life, how she poisoned him slowly, how she stole everything he had worked his entire life to build. Douglas looked directly at Amanda as he testified. Amanda stared back without emotion, as if Douglas was an inconvenience rather than a human being whose life she had ruined. The jury listened to 3 weeks of testimony with visible horror. Several jurors cried during victim impact statements. One juror had to be excused temporarily after Douglas' testimony because she could not stop shaking. When the prosecution rested, Amanda's defense lasted less than 2 days. They had nothing to work with. No credible alternative narrative. No way to explain away the mountain of evidence. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, the forewoman read the verdicts in a clear, steady voice. Guilty on all counts. 4 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of conspiracy to commit murder, 18 counts of fraud, multiple counts of forgery, theft, elder abuse, and other charges. Guilty, 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 more than 30 times. Amanda's face remained expressionless. She showed nothing, no fear, no regret, no recognition of what she had done. Even facing life imprisonment, she remained cold and empty. The judge, a woman in her 60s who had presided with stern fairness throughout the trial, addressed Amanda directly before sentencing. She said she had seen many criminals in her courtroom over 30 years on the bench, but few as calculating and remorseless as Amanda Strickland. She said Amanda was a danger to society who could never be safely released. The sentence was 4 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. Amanda would die in prison. The judge also imposed the maximum sentences on all other counts to be served consecutively, ensuring that even if some convictions were overturned on appeal, Amanda would never see freedom again. Similar trials awaited Amanda in Michigan, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana. Similar sentences would pile on top of Ohio's judgment. Amanda Strickland's life as a free person was over. Richard Sutton received 35 years in exchange for his cooperation. He would be 78 if he survived his sentence. Diane Marquez received 20 years. Kyle Morrison received 12 years, and permanent revocation of all professional licenses. After the sentencing, I stood on the courthouse steps with Tyler, Grace, Patricia, Harold, and Detective Cordero. Reporters pressed forward with cameras and microphones, asking how we felt. I took a long breath, feeling the weight of 6 months lifting slightly from my shoulders. I told them I felt relief that Amanda could never hurt anyone again. I felt sadness for all the lives she destroyed, for the families torn apart, for the victims who did not survive. And I felt gratitude, deep and profound, that my family was still intact. Tyler spoke next, his voice strong despite the emotion in his eyes. He thanked his father for never giving up. for being brave enough to face down Amanda and Richard, even knowing how dangerous they were. He admitted he had been naive, had ignored warning signs, had been charmed by someone who saw him as a tool to get to me. He said he learned a hard lesson about trusting instincts and listening to family. He encouraged everyone watching to pay attention when loved ones express concerns about new partners. He said pride and embarrassment can make us defensive, but sometimes the people who love us see dangers we cannot see ourselves. Grace thanked Beth Morrison and Detective Cordero, calling them heroes who saved our family. She said she hoped other people would be as brave as Beth, willing to speak up when they witness injustice, willing to take risks to protect vulnerable people. Patricia spoke about her father, about the long journey toward healing, about the importance of supporting victims and advocating for better protections for elderly people. She announced that she and I were launching a foundation to educate seniors about financial exploitation and romance fraud. Harold, Amanda's would-be next victim, shared his story publicly for the first time. He described how close he came to disaster, how he almost ignored the warning signs, how grateful he was that my interview prompted him to contact authorities. He urged other seniors to be cautious, to verify people's backgrounds, to never let anyone rush them into financial decisions. Detective Cordero concluded by thanking everyone who came forward with information and testimony. He said cases like this succeed only when communities work together, when people choose courage over fear, when victims refuse to stay silent. The press conference ended, and we went our separate ways, back to our lives, to the work of healing and rebuilding. Tyler moved back into his childhood bedroom for a few months while he rebuilt his finances and processed his trauma. Grace took the other bedroom, creating a home office so she could work remotely. My house, which had felt so empty after Mary died, was full again with the sounds of family. We started a new tradition. Every Sunday evening, we gathered for dinner. No phones, no distractions, just honest conversation and connection. We laughed together, cried together, remembered Mary together, and slowly healed together. Tyler and I spent hours in my workshop, rebuilding furniture and trust simultaneously. We talked about Amanda, about the signs we missed, about how predators operate. We discussed Grace's early warnings and why Tyler had dismissed them. We unpacked the shame and guilt and fear, laying them out like tools on a workbench, examining them, understanding them, finally putting them away. Grace cooked Mary's recipes, filling the house with familiar smells. We looked through photo albums, telling stories about happier times. We planned the future, discussing holidays and birthdays and ordinary days, rebuilding the rhythms of family life. I used some of the recovered funds to establish the Foundation for Elder Protection. Patricia joined as co-director. We partnered with Harold and several other near victims to create educational programs. We visited senior centers, community groups, churches, and retirement communities, sharing our stories and teaching people how to protect themselves. We created materials about warning signs of financial exploitation. We taught people to verify online relationships before sharing personal information. We encouraged families to stay connected with elderly relatives, to create open lines of communication, to watch for sudden changes in behavior or financial decisions. The response was overwhelming. Within 6 months, our foundation was working in 8 states. We trained hundreds of volunteers. We helped dozens of people recognize and escape dangerous situations before becoming victims. On the 1-year anniversary of Beth's midnight call, I woke early and sat on my front porch watching the sunrise. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful, full of promise. Tyler joined me after a few minutes, carrying 2 cups of coffee, sitting in the chair beside mine. We sat in comfortable silence, father and son, survivors, warriors who had faced down evil and won. Tyler finally spoke, asking me how I found the courage to confront Amanda when I knew how dangerous she was. I thought about that question, about the fear that had gripped me in those terrible weeks, about the moments when I almost gave up or called for help or ran away. I told Tyler the truth. Love made me brave, the love I had for him and Grace, the love Mary and I built our family on, the love that defines who we are as human beings. I said protecting your children is the most fundamental instinct a parent has, deeper than fear, stronger than self-preservation. I told Tyler I would have faced down an army to keep him safe, and in a way I did. Amanda and her network of accomplices were an army of sorts, organized and dangerous and willing to kill. But they underestimated the power of a father's love. Tyler embraced me then, tears streaming down both our faces. Grace came out to join us, wrapping her arms around us both. We stood there together on the porch, our small circle of family, watching the sun climb higher in a sky full of hope. I thought about Mary, wishing she could see this moment, hoping she was proud of how I protected our son. I thought about Beth, whose conscience and courage started everything, whose one brave act saved multiple lives. I thought about Detective Cordero, Bernard Hayes, Patricia Brennan, and all the others who chose to do the right thing even when it was difficult and dangerous. I thought about the lesson this terrible experience taught me, the wisdom earned through pain and fear and nearly losing everything that matters. Evil exists in this world, hiding behind pleasant faces and kind words, but goodness is stronger. Love is stronger. Family is stronger. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Do not ignore warning signs because you want to believe the best in people. Verify everything, especially when someone pushes you to make quick decisions about finances or property. Ask for help. It is not weakness, but wisdom. Surround yourself with people who genuinely care about you, who will tell you hard truths, who will stand beside you when danger comes. Listen to family members who express concerns. They may see dangers you cannot see, may recognize patterns you miss because you are too close to the situation. Most importantly, never give up fighting for what matters. You are never too old to be brave, never too weak to stand up against injustice, never too alone if you reach out for help. I learned that survivors heal together, that shared trauma can become shared strength, that speaking out about injustice can protect others from similar harm. I learned that justice, while sometimes slow, can prevail when good people refuse to stay silent. That one person's courage can inspire others, creating ripples that spread far beyond what we can see. Tyler and Grace and I stood on that porch as the morning warmed around us, grateful for every breath, every moment, every sunrise we almost lost. The sun climbed higher, warming our faces, promising another day of healing, another day of family, another day of life worth living. Birds sang in the trees Mary and I planted 30 years ago. Neighbors began their morning routines, waving as they collected newspapers or walked dogs. Life continued, ordinary and precious and beautiful. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply, finally at peace. Justice had been served. Love had conquered all, and we survived, together, to tell this story and hopefully protect others from similar dangers. The nightmare was over, the healing had begun, and our family, battered but unbroken, would face whatever came next together, because that is what families do. We protect each other. We fight for each other. We survive together. And that is the most important lesson of all. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever ignored warning signs about someone because you wanted to believe the best in them? Have you ever dismissed a family member's concerns only to discover later they were right? What would you do if you discovered someone close to you was not who they claimed to be? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else recognize danger before it is too late. And if this story moved you or taught you something valuable, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more true stories that matter, and share this with anyone who might benefit from hearing it, especially elderly friends or family members who might be vulnerable to predators like Amanda. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you stay safe, stay connected with family, and stay brave in the face of danger. May you and your loved ones never face such trials, but if you do, may you find the courage and support to overcome them. Stay safe out there, and remember that you are never alone.